The night of the devil.
Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we talk about Halloween horror movies you missed, but that are perfect for the spooky season. And with that, let's get to the list.
I'm ending this tonight.
It ain't over.
Dark Harvest is a 2023 fantasy horror movie directed by David Slade. It stars Casey Likes, Emery Crutchfield, Elizabeth Reeser, and Jeremy Davies. In a small Midwestern town, a deadly annual ritual unfolds with the mythical nightmare Sawtooth Jack, who rises from the cornfields and challenges the town's teenage boys to a bloody battle of survival.
It's real.
You saw it?
So this is a newer one that a lot of people missed. It never had a theatrical run, at least not from my knowledge, and it was just kind of dropped streaming one day, and I heard a tiny bit of buzz, but for the most part, it came out with no fanfare. And honestly, it's a real shame, and mostly it's because it wasn't marketed at all. But I'm telling you, it just screams Halloween. It has this whole twisted tradition vibe that really makes for a fun seasonal story. But what I love most about this is the atmosphere. The town feels cursed, but in a great way, like it could almost be in the same universe as a movie like Trick or Treat. And holy shit, Sawtooth Jack is just badass. It's such a sick design. Just this gnarly burned, pumpkin-headed creature that feels straight out of some kind of Halloween nightmare.
I worked with a guy named Terry Notary, and if you go on IMDb, like he did every Planet of the Apes movie. He does all the choreography, movement choreography for Marvel films, all these action films. Like he is the movement coach of movement coaches in Hollywood. He's incredible. But they hired him to be like the Sawtooth movement master. And so the two of us, in between shooting days of Star Wars, would meet at a studio for hours and just like talk about. David Slade had this thing. He's like, I want Sawtooth to move like ink and water. I just want it to be ink and water. And so like Terry and I would like, what does that, what does that mean to be ink and water? And just to really, he didn't want just another zombie.
But don't get me wrong, this isn't a perfect movie. Like all the movies on this list, it's a limited kind of movie. It doesn't have a huge budget, so there's definitely some flaws and things that, if you pick it apart, I'm sure you'll take issue with. It's just a little rough around the edges in ways. But if you want something new to add to your Halloween rotation, this one totally delivers. It's one that I highly, highly recommend. This portion of the video is sponsored by BetterHelp. I always thought by now my life would look a certain way. Career figured out, no real struggles. Well, you know how life works. It had a different plan for me. And I've had people I care about around me my entire life dealing with mental health issues. And during the 2020 lockdown, I hit my personal lowest point. Serious, crippling kind of depression. It really felt like the walls were closing in around me and suffocating me. But having someone to talk to, someone that could guide me mentally, honestly, it saved my life more than once. And lately, I've been thinking even more about mental health because I realized how quickly things can change and how easy it is to slip into a dark place without noticing. That's why I am so glad BetterHelp is sponsoring this video. A therapist will actually listen and ask questions and help you see things in a different light. They'll give you tools and techniques to make real changes in your life. With BetterHelp, you just fill out a quick questionnaire and in a couple of days, you can be matched with a therapist. And if it's not the right fit, you could switch at any time with no extra cost. They've got over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, so you know they're legit. Getting help and going to therapy is a sign of strength, not of weakness. It's really empowering, and BetterHelp makes getting therapy so simple. And with my link, you can get 10% off of your first month. So if you're ready to take that first step, go to my link in the video description or in the top pinned comment. That's betterhelp.com/ghostpirate. And I want to give BetterHelp a huge thank you for sponsoring this video.
We'll be right back.
You're watching the WNUF Halloween special.
WNUF Halloween Special is a 2013 analog horror movie, co-written and primarily directed by Chris LaMartina. It stars Paul Fahrenkampf, Aaron Hinken, and Nicolette Lefay. The plot follows a television personality that decides to investigate strange supernatural occurrences at a house that is supposedly haunted.
Don't check your dial, folks. You didn't tune into Transylvania's public access station. No, sir. Tonight is Halloween.
This one is pure Halloween magic, especially for anyone who grew up in the 80s or 90s. It's just so entertaining. But really, it's for anyone who's into retro weirdness or analog horror. It's just so well done. It's styled as a VHS recording of a fake news broadcast in the 1980s. So you get commercials, awkward news anchors, and then a live broadcast from inside a supposedly haunted house. It's so creative and DIY in the best way. It just oozes nostalgia. It really feels like a late night cable TV broadcast from around Halloween.
The impetus before WNUF Halloween Special was the idea that we wanted to make a found footage movie. And we were like, because it had been a couple summers since we'd made one. And one of the things we had thought about doing was like, what don't we like about found footage movies, right? And one of the things we sort of wrote a laundry list of all the things we hated about found footage films. One was the fact that when you get a movie with a UPC code on it, you kind of know, it's not really like found footage. The other thing too was how often are people really, why are they filming? There's so many weird circumstances where like when you're watching a found footage film, you're like, someone turn the camera off at that point. And then the third thing was so many of those movies are very much like based around like one location, minimal actors, very, very kind of boring type stuff, right? Like, and I always made ensemble films. So with the original WNUF, we sort of looked at those three questions and reverse engineered from them.
But the real genius of this is how hard it commits to the bit. It really leans in to the point where the commercials feel super real. But then when stuff goes off the rails, it really leans into that as well. But I don't think this will be for everyone because it is a bit slower and it has this really niche type of style about it. But if you love Halloween atmosphere and analog horror, this is a must-see.
You have a beautiful imagination. It's going to get you into trouble one day.
Cobweb is a 2023 horror movie, directed by Samuel Bowden in his directorial debut. It stars Lizzie Kaplan, Woody Norman, and Anthony Starr. Horror strikes when an 8-year-old boy named Peter tries to investigate the mysterious knocking noises coming from inside the walls of his house, and a dark secret his sinister parents have kept hidden from him.
Peter drew this?
Yes. Is he all right?
Peter has an overactive imagination.
This is another pretty recent one that has been criminally overlooked. And back when it first came out, it was such a limited release. Like, it was just not promoted at all and just kind of plopped into a couple theaters. And I really wanted to see it. I wanted to help promote it and just cover it in general. And so I ended up reaching out to the director, Samuel Bowden, who was really kind and got me in touch with the right people, and I ended up getting a screener link to it and was able to see it and then talk about it on the channel. But it's just one that really has pained me because it's perfect for the Halloween season, but because it was done dirty and didn't get any promotion at all, it hasn't gotten the love it really deserves. But visually, it's gorgeous. You've got this muted autumn palette with these pops of Halloween imagery, jack-o'-lanterns, costumes, pumpkins, with that suburban fall setting. And like I said, this movie just oozes the Halloween season. So it's basically a perfect October movie. Something I really appreciated about it as well was it balances these childhood fears with real horror. So you're never quite sure if what's happening is supernatural or if it's psychological. But when it all comes together, it's pretty fucking wild. And the cast is great here as well, especially Lizzie Kaplan and Anthony Starr. They just kill these roles.
It was a conversation with my producers to say, that scene, I want that not to be bloody. And we will try that, and we will try that. We did a lot of storyboards. All the scary scenes were storyboards and everything. So it was really, really a work in preparation and to find the good tone, to say, okay, if there is no blood and less violence, maybe we will lose fear. So how we can bring back fear? It's in the mood, it's in the score. Drum and Bass did a so good job on that. And in the production design, and we had to create that kind of hypnotic way to go on in the story and create that place where the audience is never sure, never grab something. So you're always scared in the way, so you don't need blood and you don't need that thing.
I love how it feels like a live action Coraline. It's a different story, but it scratches that same itch that Coraline does. It lives in the same kind of creepiness. Everything about it is moody and creepy. It's perfect for the Halloween season. So if you have yet to see this, do yourself a favor and check it out. Murder Party is a 2007 comedy horror movie, written and directed by Jeremy Solner. It stars Chris Sharp, William Lacey, and Paul Goldblatt. A random invitation to a Halloween party leads a man into the hands of a rogue collective, intent on murdering him for the sake of their art.
Think beyond splattering blood on canvas. When our masterpiece is complete, and the coroner's report is back in, it will read the cause of death. Art.
Before Jeremy Solner gave us Green Room and Blue Ruin, he made this gem. It's such an entertaining movie that way more people need to see. It's everything that I love about indie film. It has limited resources in its production, but the writing, the zaniness, the creativity really makes up for it. So it might be low budget, but I'm telling you, it is a blast. It gets gory and wild while still dripping with that Halloween night energy, with costumes, candy, jack-o'-lanterns just all over it. And what really makes it stand out for me is the tone. It's satirical and absolutely funny, but brutal at the same time.
We became a really tight-knit crew, and we made movies all throughout high school, and we kept in touch in college in our various film schools, and it was a really fantastic convergence.
It started off with a pretty big group of us trying to, like 5 or 6 of us with Lab of Madness, trying to make a feature film happen, trying to make something happen.
We had been developing a script for quite some time. I believe we started in the year 2000. The film is entitled Mustache. We had been through several drafts of the script. We went back and forth, Chris Macon and I.
Tried to get it going in 2002. It didn't quite happen, so we ended up making a short film called Crab Walk, which was fantastic for us. Crab Walk enabled us to meet enough people that there's people interested in our feature.
Actually, I'm here about a job. Are you hiring?
Nope. We had been trying to go through the proper channels to get the project funded by investors. We were waiting for a green light, and that green light never came. I had suggested let's just do Murder Party as a feature film.
Fuck you, Hollywood. We're gonna make our own film.
I shot the opening sequence of the film before page 1 was written. That, I think, was really important to the process, was pulling that trigger right away.
Literally, we green-lit it ourselves with no money at all in August or September of 2005, and by February of 2006, we were shooting.
And it gets wild and really over the top, especially in the final act. But if you're into indie horror that's clever and well written and not afraid to get messy, this one is an absolute must-see. Satan's Little Helper is a 2004 horror movie, written and directed by Jeff Lieberman. It stars Alexander Brickell, Catherine Winnick, and Amanda Plummer. A naive young boy unknowingly becomes the pawn for a serial killer.
Are you Satan? Can I be your helper? This could be our secret door to hell.
What a weird and odd, but fantastic little movie this one is. And it is such a fun Halloween watch. Everything is just off in this. The performances, the costumes, the dialogue, the way it's shot, it just feels strange. It just feels like everything is just a little bit not right. So you feel a little uncomfortable throughout this entire movie. It's campy, darkly funny, and has this almost anything goes way about it. And so it all comes together to just have this very unique feel about it.
You ever see a real zombie movie?
Yeah, the oldest one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were zombie movies. George Romero didn't call those living dead guys in Line of the Living Dead, he didn't call them zombies. Nobody in the movie said zombies. That was like slasher.
Yeah.
When I made Just Before Dawn, I said, oh, I think I'll make a slasher movie. There was no such term. John Carpenter made Halloween. He said, making a slasher movie. No, it all came later, right? When Led Zeppelin was doing those songs, they go, we're doing heavy metal. No, it's like they said what you guys did and defined, we're going to call heavy metal. But so you don't, the creative people don't, you're just doing your thing. And then somebody later on looks back in history and gives it a label. It's like now you get young people say, let's make a zombie movie. What the fuck is that? It's like, why, of all the things you could do, why would you do that? There's 8 million of them. Yeah. Make a movie and eliminate all the things that have been done 100 times and do something. It's harder to do, to be original, but if you can't be original, do something else for a living. That's my thing.
It really doesn't feel like any other movie. Plus, the Halloween setting is front and center. Costumes are involved, shopping at these old Halloween stores. Like, the movie from beginning to end incorporates Halloween into everything that it does. But it's definitely not high art or anything to overthink at all. But it's memorable and perfectly captures that mischievous side of Halloween. And I think it's an underrated little gem that you'll have a lot of fun with, and is definitely worth checking out. Tales of Halloween is a 2015 comedy horror anthology, with segments directed by Neil Marshall, Darren Lynn Bousman, Axel Carolyn, and others. It stars Lynn Shay, Barry Bostwick, Alex Esso, and many other horror icons. It weaves 10 stories together, with the central theme being Halloween night in an American suburb.
Every year on Halloween, this town goes batshit crazy.
This is a very small production anthology Halloween horror movie that really gives you variety with these 10 different stories interwoven. And like all anthologies, some of the segments are better than others, but some of these directors have become pretty big in the horror industry, and there's a lot of creativity on display. And so I think it's very, very entertaining.
From the beginning, we'd say, okay, here's the parameters. We're gonna aim for this kind of budget for each episode. We're gonna provide you with the camera and the lighting on top of that budget, and with the post-production on top of that. It needs to take place on the same night on Halloween, in the same town. And then from there, as long as it's Halloween-based and Halloween-centric, do whatever you like. It needs to be horror, that's the only condition. But otherwise, just make it funny, make it scary, make it whatever you like, it's up to you.
And with it being 10 short stories, you get everything from serial killers to demons, killer pumpkins. It's basically a Halloween grab bag. And beyond that, it has a lot of different faces from the horror industry that have these little cameos throughout. It's kind of like Trick or Treat's ugly cousin. It's not quite as polished, but still very entertaining, especially for any diehard fans of horror out there. So if you've yet to see this one, definitely add this one to your list.
Do you want to see my face?
Haunt is a 2019 slasher horror movie, written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. It stars Katie Stevens, Will Brittain, and Laura McLean. On Halloween night, a group of friends encounter an extreme haunted house that promises to feed on their darkest fears. This is, without a doubt, one of my favorite Halloween horror movies. And I know a lot of people have seen this. Like, if you're big into the horror industry, you've probably seen this movie. But I do know that there's still a lot of people that are a little more into the mainstream or newer to watching horror movies that haven't seen it. It's still one that I think deserves to be talked about on lists like this. And because I'm such a big fan of it, I wanted to show it some love. And a lot of what I love about this is how it does such a good job of capturing that small town haunted house vibe. But if one of these little haunted houses was ran by a group of homicidal maniacs. Beyond that, it was also written by the same guys who wrote A Quiet Place, and most recently wrote and directed the movie Heretic last year, which I was a big fan of. That is one of my favorite movies from last year. But this builds great tension and has some fantastic scares without just using a bunch of cheap jump scares. It all feels well done and earned. And what makes it work so well is the design of the villains. Their creepy masks are simple, but also very effective. There's an air of mystery to them that works great. Because for the vast majority of the movie, you know next to nothing about them, their motives, or really anything at all about who's underneath these masks.
Once we started thinking about that thematic idea for our protagonist, that we then started thinking, who are these villains? And what masks are they wearing, and what are they hiding behind that mask?
Also came from the idea, like a visual inspiration point, where we were looking at like Halloween masks of the past, like these vintage vacuum form masks, and how inherently terrifying they've actually become, even though they started from a very, I think, childhood inspiration point, but trying to one-up that in terms of what the design would actually be, and the idea that what you see on the surface is not always face value.
It's also bloody and intense and really nails that Halloween vibe, especially that energy of going out with your friends and doing something scary on Halloween night. I think it's a perfect pick this time of year and an absolute must-see for any fan of horror.
No one wants to be out after dark.
Where the hell is he?
Candy Corn is a 2019 horror movie, written and directed by Josh Hasty. It stars Madison Russ, Poncho Moller, and Sky Elabar. It's Halloween weekend, and a group of bullies are planning their annual hazing on a local outcast. But when they take things too far, he's resurrected and seeks revenge on those who wronged him.
For thou who sleeps in stone and clay, heed this call, rise and obey.
This is a dirty, gritty, sweaty, grimy, just flawed little movie, but I think it's really fun. It's definitely one of those movies that I think a lot of people won't get with because it doesn't have the best acting. The special effects aren't the best. But to me, there's a lot of heart here. You can feel the passion from the people involved and that they gave it their best. And there is a lot here, I think, to love, especially if you like those old grindhouse 1970s movies.
Well, here at Bionic Buzz, we're all about people's passion. What your passion for filmmaking come from? Was certain movies inspired it? Was always as naturally for you as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was certain movies, but it's really the season of Halloween. Mm-hmm. The season and those films from that era. You know, I grew up early 80s watching the VHSs, and it was the idea of going to, Hollywood Video or Blockbuster and picking out the best looking cover and, ordering pizza and spending the weekend doing that. So I wanted to not make something that was, sort of like watching archival footage of that, but really go back in time and create something that could have come out during that time.
And this is one that has flown completely under the radar for those reasons, because like I said, it's not for everyone. But it does such a great job of leaning into the Halloween vibe and doing a lot with what it's working with. It also gets gory, nasty, and gross in a very grimy, grindhouse way. In ways it kind of feels like a poor man's Rob Zombie movie. Beyond that, there is some fun cameos in this that I won't spoil because it's better if you don't see them coming, but there are some big icons in horror that you'll enjoy seeing. But I think if you're just trying to get lost in the Halloween mood with something that isn't perfect, but that is still entertaining, and you enjoy low budget indie horror, I think this is one you definitely could have a good time with. All Hallows Eve is a 2013 anthology horror movie. Written, edited, and directed by Damien Leone. It stars Katie Maguire, Catherine Callahan, and Mike Gianelli. While babysitting 2 children on Halloween night, a babysitter finds a mysterious VHS tape in one of the children's candy bags that contains 3 horror stories linked by a killer clown. This is a perfect one for anyone looking for something darker that is still rough around the edges. It's a very gritty, small movie. It's the anthology movie that introduced the world to Art the Clown, who's become famous from the Terrifier movies.
The producer, Jesse Badget of All Hallows Eve, he was looking around YouTube to find Halloween-based short films from amateur filmmakers, and he was just going to compile them and make an anthology. And he loved Terrifier, and he loved Art the Clown, and he's like, I want to make this movie. I want to put Art the Clown on the cover, like he'll be the focal point of this film. He's like, and I'm gonna go and try and find films from other filmmakers. And I was like, well, is it possible to just let me be the sole filmmaker? I was like, I actually have this other short film with Art the Clown in it, which was The Ninth Circle. I was like, and then maybe we can get a couple extra bucks and we can pad it out, make another story, and do a wraparound. Because I wanted it to be, I didn't want to share the movie with anybody, especially if it was going to be Art the Clown being the focal point of it. So, and he agreed, which was cool. And so we went and made All Hallows Eve.
But holy shit, does it get creepy, dirty, and gross. Even with pretty much no budget, Damien Leone finds a way to turn your stomach and make you feel like you got to take a shower. But Art the Clown is what really makes this memorable. Even though David Howard Thornton is who has made that character even more iconic, this is still a disturbing version of the character. So it's definitely rough around the edges. It's grimy with this DIY vibe that actually kind of adds to the creep factor. But if you're a big fan of the Terrifier movies, this is pretty much required viewing. And besides that, this is actually pretty effective at creeping you out and getting under your skin. So it's not perfect, but I think it's still a great time and definitely a good pick this time of year.
Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat is a 1986 supernatural slasher, directed by Charles Martin Smith in his directorial debut. It stars Mark Price, Tony Fields, and Lisa Orgolini. A bullied teenage boy is devastated after the death of his heavy metal idol. But as Halloween night approaches, he discovers that he may be the only one who can stop him from making a satanic comeback from beyond the grave.
Raising spirits from the dead by incantations, right?
Yes.
I did that by playing the record backwards.
You're kidding.
This is pure big, giant hair, heavy metal music fun. And it's a real tragedy that it's not talked about more this time of year. It's soaked in 1980s heavy metal, with the whole movie oozing in that rebellious energy. With screaming guitars and outrageous 80s style and the big hair. I mean, it has all of that just on display. And for anyone like me that grew up in the 80s, it is very nostalgic to see this. And what makes it such a standout is how it leans into the campiness, because the performances are all over the top. But underneath the cheese, there are some genuinely cool, scary, practical effects that really still hold up. Especially if you're a fan of practical effects, you'll appreciate what they do in this. It's got that raw, handmade design to it. So it does a really good job of capturing that Halloween vibe from this era. And a lot of the props and things that they use, it really gives it a great Halloween energy. Also, the music is a huge part of the experience. It's basically the heartbeat of this movie. And so it does a great job of bringing horror and metal together seamlessly. This is one of the best, especially in this era, at doing that right. Plus, Ozzy makes a great cameo appearance in this. Very, very fun performance here from him.
Before it was all the film stars and rock stars. Now it don't matter, you know. Even film stars now are becoming rock stars, and rock stars are becoming film stars, you know.
But this doesn't try to be high art. It's not trying to be an elevated kind of horror movie or anything like that. It just wants to be loud, fun, and entertaining. But I think it absolutely succeeds in that. It's a true cult classic and a great snapshot of 1980s horror metal culture. It deserves way more attention than it gets. And I think it's a perfect pick for this Saturday night. So do yourself a favor this weekend, pick one of the movies off of this list, grab your popcorn and your candy, or candy corn, and enjoy! And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button, and remember guys, horror can be fun, and I'll see you all next time!